Hello, everyone. Good evening. Hope you all are doing great. I'm Mahbub, host of today's session, Meet the Global Leader. The main objective of this session is basically to give an insight and idea about professional lessons, how professional life is going, and how it is, and different ways to implement skills that actually a professional use in their day-to-day life, and also to give them to promote and create an awareness that before graduation they should develop some basic skills to make themselves future ready. So today we have invited Josephine from Taiwan. She's digital content strategy and corporate communication, and also a vice curator, Global Shepherds Taipei Hub, and co-founder of TCG Hobby. So, Josephine, welcome to our session.
Thank you, Mahir. So happy to be here.
Great. Can you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so like just Mahir said earlier, my name is Josephine. I've been living in Taiwan for almost 10 years, but I'm not from Taiwan actually. So I'm originally from Indonesia, and then my journey in Taiwan actually started because I studied here. I did my bachelor here, and then after I graduated, I was originally planning to go home. But then I end up securing my first job here in the banking industry. So after working in the banking industry for about a year, I transitioned to the tech industry because Taiwan is more popular and famous for their technology. They're very strong in that field. So that's why I decided that I want to transition to technology field. And then yeah, so since there, like I've just been working in the tech industry up until now. Yeah, and up until recently, I actually started my own side project and business, which is the CG hobby.
Great. And extremely sorry for my mistake.
Mhm.
Um, that you're from Philippines. Uh, like how like we try to connect Josephine, the student life of a professional person, and the journey or the beginning story of their professional life. How did they start? So, how was your student life? And were there any stories about apart from study activities or things you did that helped you develop some skills?
That's actually a very good question because looking back now in my university years, it was actually a very good and fun times, right? Because you met with a lot of. So I studied in the international program. So a lot of my classmates, they're not only from Taiwan. They're also people from the States, people from the Southeast Asia like Vietnam, Singapore. So basically, my classmates are people from around the world. So I'm pretty grateful that my classmates are pretty inclusive. So we get along with each other pretty well. And then, so aside from attending classes, going to school, I actually also during my university years, I actually also explore a lot of things like hobbies or things that I'm interested in learning. Because at that time I thought like, oh, now I'm in the university student, like I'm in the university, so my focus is now is only like studying. So during my free time, aside from like just doing my schoolwork, I also tried to do a lot of different stuff. Yeah, and when I said a lot of different stuff, it was actually very broad, like from like different kind of sports or reading books about different kinds of topics. And then I also tried to hang out with people from different parts of the world as well to learn about each other and to learn about culture. So I feel like looking back in my university years, I was just really exploring a lot of different things. Yeah, and trying to figure out like what do I really like. Yeah, because I think at that time like I wasn't so sure enough like what kind of job or what kind of like field I want to be in. Yeah.
Great. And after graduation, how's the journey of your professional career?
So actually I studied international business, but I do like two minors at the same time. So I did finance and marketing as my minor. Yeah. And then um, actually my first job is in the banking industry. So it wasn't really well, I did study finance and I did study international business, but I wasn't planning to work in the bank at the first place, to be honest. Yeah. But then I got it, so I was like, okay, maybe it's a good start to learn about like the proper like banking world, like finance and like proper business and all that. So I joined like a international. It was actually a Taiwanese bank, but they have like international branches as well. And then my role there was in corporate banking, so I was assistant credit manager. Yeah. So my job basically was just to help analyze if like a corporate, like a company client, they're looking for a loan. They want to borrow money from the bank. So I'm the one that will analyze their, then check their background information and approve their. I'm not the one that approve, but I'm the one that like preparing the reports and do the preliminary assessment of this company. Yeah. So
So did you
transition.
find? Yeah.
Sorry. So your question was like transitioning from like student life to work life, right? So my because my okay, so because I'm a foreigner and then I'm not from Taiwan, but my first job was actually in Taiwan. So and it's transitioning between university life and to like a real work life. There was like a time of like adjustment for me because I studied in the international school, so it was very English first environment. But when I got to the bank, although like a lot of documents are in English, they're pretty international too. But because it's still like a Taiwanese bank, so a lot of like communications with colleague and management are still mainly in Chinese. Yeah, so I also need to adapt to like the culture here. Yeah, but it was pretty good experience to have. Yeah.
Good. And did you find any gap basically that the thing that you studied at university and the thing that you were doing at your work, were there any gaps or that you studied one thing but in professional life you are getting different things or you have to do it differently rather than textbook?
Yes, it's very different because but probably the only thing that applies for me in my first job was the accounting. Yeah, I guess you need to learn the basic of accounting, but in terms of like the actual skills, I don't think like it is like really taught that in school. Like probably like the basics, like some principles, yes. But when it comes to like the real life application, let's say when you analyze a business, because at that time my job was I need to do like the preliminary assessment. Let's say a company want to apply for a loan, right? So I need to have like a well-rounded perspective. And like I need to think in a different way of understanding like not only like the business side but also like the industry. How is this industry um doing? And then how is this company making money? Like what is this business model? So a lot of stuff is actually a lot of learning on the go. Yeah. Because like sometimes like okay like okay this is like how a company usually makes money in this kind of like industry, but when it comes to the real life application, sometimes it's not always like exactly 100% the same. Yeah.
Great. So you also did an internship as a sales in sales and marketing.
Yeah.
So according to how important it is to have a to do an internship after like completing all the semester, the importance of like do an internship and how it helps them to make themselves, how it helps students to make themselves like job ready.
I think internship is a very good thing if you have the chance to, because actually internship is more like it's a journey for I think it's a journey for me to also learn about yourself. yeah, let's say like you're interested. Okay, for example, like you're interested in business, but you're studying arts, right? But let's say you're already in your like third year or like final year, and then you start to think, okay, if I have to do this all over again, is it worth it or no? Because now like I'm not so sure, right? So sometimes doing internship is like a mini test or like trial for yourself to really put yourself or immerse yourself in a like a job like situation. Although like sometimes like your responsibilities as intern, of course, maybe a lot lesser than if you're like a full-time worker, but it's still like a good experience for you to actually get like a glimpse of like what is the actual work environment look like, and then like how things are in the workplace, because sometimes it's very different than in the school. Yeah.
Also, you did an internship in uh, e-commerce intern in business development.
Yes.
So how was it like like your sales and marketing internship and business development, actually what did you learn from these two internships?
I think I learned a very different thing. On the sales and marketing role, I learned more about like reporting, like doing like a lot of like Excel sheet presentations, and then um, basically organizing data, because in sales and marketing, like you also need to understand about the numbers. So basically, yeah. So that's I think that's what I learned at my role back time. But in e-commerce, I learned a lot of things in a sense that because I interned at a startup at that time, so I got to experience like how like a business kind of like just start, and like they're on the like growth phase. Because at that time I was in charge for the Southeast Asian market, specifically Indonesia. So at that time they were like trying to explore if there's any demand in that market. So it's really a good it was a really good experience because I had uh, the exposure of starting a business in a new market from scratch, into like building the demand, like doing the test and trial to see if there is actually an actual business opportunities there and if it's sustainable or not. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So it
like
very
being from Philippines and settling in Taiwan, how's your experience? How have you adapted in the like this diversified work culture, and actually what have you been learning through like working in a foreign country, and like like working for companies, uh, working for people from different maybe countries. So share your experiences and some lessons for working. Like how have you adapted with this work culture, and your lessons and things you have been learning.
okay. So my only work experience is actually in Taiwan. So I've never worked in another country outside from Taiwan. So I could speak from my experience in Taiwan, but I'm not from Taiwan. So that's like an interesting perspective there. So as a foreigner that work in Taiwan, I think I learned a pretty much very diverse thing. But I think if it's there's just one thing that is like really impactful or stand out, it's probably the work culture here. So my very first job was in the bank, right? And then it was very much like although it's very already like um, international, but it's still like mainly like very heavy in Taiwanese culture. Um, so what I learned from there is like how to the way that you communicate, and probably and your attitude towards work. Here, especially in Asia, it's more hardcore, I would say. Yeah, like people don't mind to um, kind of like work overtime without getting paid. Yeah, because it's just part of the culture. Yeah, but it doesn't mean like every company are like that. But it's just kind of like a common thing here. Yeah, but from there I moved to more like a westernized um, culture company. And then in my second company, my boss was actually was he's from Taiwan as well, but he was educated in the States. Although he communicated with me in Chinese sometimes, but then the style is more like open, I would say. Yeah, and then from there, all the companies that I work with are mostly more international. So the culture are pretty, I would say, pretty open. Yeah. In terms of what I learned, I think in a very different position and different company, I learned different things. Yeah, like for example, for my first job in the bank, I learned actually I learned how a business kind of like work, like how they apply for money in case they need funding from the bank, and then learn about economics, the industry trends, not just like specifically to one industry, but need to be aware and like know different industries at the same time. Yeah, so more about that. And then in my second company, I learned more about um, how to talk to clients, like how to sell stuff without being like really pushy, like how basically more like in the international business side, learn about like sales and logistics. Yeah, and then from there, my role was more focused on the marketing side. Yeah.
And also from bank, you shifted to like as a global sales and marketing specialist in like occupational health and safety. It's a different industry, right?
Yes,
So
that's
global sales and marketing specialist. So how was your role and skills you had that actually led you to this role, and that you what was were your regular tasks in general as a global sales and marketing specialist, and maybe you had to work with like a global market. So how was your learnings by working there?
Yeah. So my role there was like most of my clients they're from around the world, but most of them are from the Middle East. Yeah. So my role there, like mostly, I usually start the day by checking my emails because that's my main communication line with all the clients, making sure if there is any um, order or like sales, like I get through all the processes, I get through all of their questions, and then if there is like if they've purchased with us before and they require like after sales service, and I'm their point of contact, I need to also handle that part as well. Yeah. And then aside from communicating with clients, I also was in charge for the logistic part. Yeah. For like exporting stuff, dealing with the paperwork for the import and export, mostly for the export coming out from Taiwan to outside Taiwan. Yeah. And then aside from that, I also was in charge for the marketing, like doing email marketing and social media. So I would say like my role there was pretty like very many hats role. Yeah, because it was like a startup company, but then they're already pretty stable. They were already in business for more than a decade. Um, yeah, so in that regards, I was thankful as well. I got that opportunity because in that role, I kind of like learned a lot of stuff. So every day it's like different things to do, but like the things that I just mentioned are the main things that I was mostly in charge of. Yeah.
So what is digital content strategy and corporate communication? So how, like, can you share a little bit about importance of like developing this kind of skills, or how professional or can be like digital content strategies or corporate communication expert? Then how have you got to this part?
Yeah, so actually, I thought this part was the thing that took me here was actually from the sales and marketing job because one of my responsibility was actually to handle the website content, which is to write articles in English. Yeah, so I was the one that was in charge of that during that time. So by time and just by learning by doing, I actually found that writing articles for like a website, there's more to it. It's not just about like writing stuff. Of course, your what you write needs to be good, but there later on, I learned there are like some techniques that you should apply if you want your article to be found. Yeah, so that's how I learned a bit about SEO, and then from there, because I was interested in it, so yeah, that's how I got my role as the digital content and corporate communication. Yeah.
Great. And you're also like a vice curator of Global Shapers Taipei Hub. So how
Mhm.
Global Shapers create impact in the community, if you can share a little bit on that.
Yeah, I'm glad
And
you asked.
and
Yeah.
as a role, what is your role? What is your task associated as a vice curator?
Yeah, so my role as a prosecutor actually is to co-lead with the curator, co-lead the hub. So basically, in simple words, responsible for running the hub. And then in terms of the impact, right now we're actually running two projects. The first project is a podcast, which is called Think Global and Work Local Podcast. You can listen on about it on Spotify. Basically, this podcast is for the team is under the reskilling team. Yeah, and the purpose that we create this podcast is actually we noticed like there's like a little bit of like brain drain issue here in Taiwan, especially for the young professionals. So that's the main drive or the motive why we created this podcast because we actually found that hey, in Taiwan there are still a lot of like opportunities or things that you could actually do or develop your career. Like doesn't have to always be like overseas. Like so this is the motive why we started this podcast, and then we start to interview like many established like from young professionals to entrepreneurs that have made themselves here in Taiwan to kind of like just inspire people out there, especially the young professionals, like, hey, there is like, hey, you could make it here. Yeah. So this is one of the projects that we're currently running. And then the second project that we just started this year as well is the Reformosa. So this project is to create awareness about sustainability, especially in consumables or like in food packaging when there are like many like terms or companies that claiming like hey this product is like eco-friendly or like this and that, but is it true? So this is the thing that we're trying to do, like to educate like the people out there about sustainability and be like a smart consumers. Yeah, and this project is actually we got the grant from the World Economic Forum to run it. Yeah, because there's a competition, and then our project is one of them that was granted the grant. Yeah, so we were really excited to
Yep.
continue and develop our efforts going forward.
Wonderful. I mean, so many things and so many ways to learn and also transfer, like the expertise, experiences among maybe young professionals or in the community. So, like apart from work, like this role with Global Shapers, Taipei Hub, share a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. Uh, how did you come up with this idea for TCG hobby?
And it's actually come out of like I wouldn't say out of nowhere, but it's a bit unexpected. Yeah. Um, so the idea was actually come out because I really like Japan a lot in a way. So I went there quite often, and then one time, one of my friend, which is now is my co-founder, he's a collector, and then because he know that I was there, and then he asked me like, "Oh, hey, I know that you're in Japan now. I'm really looking for this collectible item, but it's only available in Japan. Is there any chance that you could help me buy?" So that's how it started. So I went to Japan when I was there. I helped him to get the the collectibles that he wanted. So when I was in Japan and then I was like helping him to buy, I was like really fascinated by the community there and the shops. I was like, oh, wow, like there is actually a demand and a market for this thing. I was really surprised because I thought like, oh, it's just like collectibles. Like, what's so special about it? And I was a bit shocked by the price because like, oh, I thought it was like, oh, it's just a card. Like, why certain cards could be like this expensive? Yeah. So I think that was just like coming from there. Like, it just got me curious. But then that's it. Like, it just stopped there. Then I went back to Taiwan, and then I gave my friend, "Hey, this is the thing that you asked me to buy." And then like I explained to him like what I saw in Japan. I was just like, "Oh, I don't know, like how come this thing is so crazy there, and there, a lot of people are actually like it." Yeah. So like the conversation just carried from there, and we're like, "Okay, so why don't we just start something like this?" Yeah, so it was just like out of like really like natural, like unexpected things. Like we didn't like have a business plan or like seriously think about thinking it in the first place. Yeah. But after that conversation, of course, like we did like I did like a we both did like a several like research. Yeah, before just to make sure like if we invest our time, at least like there's a possibility for it to make it. Yeah. But it was just really like unexpected. Like we don't like make a business plan like serious things to get it started. Yeah, so it's just like how it ended.
Great, great. And when you're focused on something, like ideas are around us. If people are focused on something, they will definitely catch it and start doing things.
Mhm.
So, do you have any mentor, like in your professional life or when you were a student? And how important it is for students to seek for mentorship?
Yes, I would say I do have a mentor, but during different life stages, I would say I would have a different mentor. Yeah, and I think it's very important to have mentor because when you're going to through like life, right, like ups and downs or like different situations, having a mentor is like it's really important in a way that for their emotional support, for just like being there, like give you advice or things that probably for them it's just like good simple things, but for you it was like actually like, oh wow, I've never thought about this before. So yeah, so I feel like having a mentor is really important in the sense that you're human, like you're a social human being. Like it's really not good for you just be alone and like isolate yourself. Yeah, and then what I mean by having mentor, like it doesn't have to be like, oh, someone like older or like more experienced than me. Sometimes it could be coming from someone younger or like someone that is like probably you think like, oh, it seems like this person is not qualified to be as my mentor. But then as you talk or you're having conversation and you learn about each other, you realize like, oh, there's actually things that we could learn from each other, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, how do we manage time? doing all the things that you do, like work and other activities? Is it because you're passionate about what you have been involved with, um, all the stuff, or what actually drives you, what excites you about, like the things that you have been doing so far?
That's a very good question. In terms of like time management, I'm very honest. I'm gonna be very honest. Like right now, I'm still like trying to learn about it and like trying to manage my time better. But the way that I've been like doing it now at least is I usually time block, and now I just try to schedule my time ahead. Like I plan things ahead. Like let's say usually on Sunday, I just like took like 15 or 20 minutes, sometimes up to an hour, just to break down like what are the top three things that I need to accomplish next week, and just focus on that three for the week and try to prioritize things and try not to overdo or like fill out my time or schedule with too many things, because then for me, if I do that, I'll feel overwhelmed, and when I feel overwhelmed, I will end up not functioning well. So I found that techniques are really helpful for me, for myself. Yeah.
Great. And like how important it is, I mean, content,
Mhm.
how it is going to, like change the landscape of business, local or global. So if you can, like digital content, how important it is for business, and how students, while they're studying at universities, can develop skills on SEO content, and if you can share the future of content, digital content, in coming years.
This is actually a very good question. I feel like content is gonna stay for sure for the long term, but in terms of the form, I feel like right now people are more into like video content than probably written content as much. Although there is still market for blog posts or written content, but let's say with TikTok, Instagram, social media, they're now pushing towards like short video reels, YouTube. So what I learned about content nowadays is literally like you don't need like fancy camera. Like you could just use your smartphone and literally like create content. And I feel like I do notice some patterns that probably like more like okay, like influencer, you know them like okay, like probably they have gear, like they have like cameras, they have probably like production team, editing team that gonna do it for them. But if you notice, there's also another spectrum that people just use like phone, and then just they just be real and their video still goes viral. So I think in the end, when it comes to content, I do appreciate a lot about being yourself and bringing what is like unique about you, and try to package it in a way that is like easy to digest. It's not too overwhelming, because like people nowadays are just like they just have a very short span of focus, because there's just so many content, right? So make what you're trying to communicate is like easy to understand, but it's also like unique. It's about you. Yeah. And probably at the first when you started, like probably you want to imitate or like copy your role model or your idol. But I think as time goes through and you tried many things, you will start finding your own voice and your style, I would say.
Wonderful. So if for students who are studying at universities, if they want to explore professional career as well, or like entrepreneurial path, so what are the skills students should develop before graduation, according to you, like for professional sector, for entrepreneurial sector?
I think in my case is to develop curiosity. Yeah, and just be willing to be curious and like just be interested in learning about things. Yeah, because let's say like for my business now history hobby, I was in a collector. Like I was in a collector a year ago. I thought like, oh, Pokemon is just like it's a kid, like a toys for kid. Yeah, I have zero knowledge about it. But then because my partner was my business partner, he was so into it. And then now that we're in this together, I need to learn and just be curious. Although I'm still have a lot to learn, but me compared to a year ago, I'm in a completely different place about Pokemon stuff now. So yeah, I think if there's just one thing that they need to learn is to be curious, be hungry, be humble enough to learn from other people, but also have your own judgment and critical thinking. Hmm.
Great. These things is pretty simple to practice. Like like focus on something that actually helps them develop, learn new things. Like to explore, and continuous thirst for knowledge is very important. So, and like along the way, they will eventually find themselves with the right path they should take
Yeah,
or they should choose. This is very important, and exploration is very important. So, Josephine, thank you so much for your very brief stories and some lessons and some advice. So this is going to open their eyes of students and help them design their future career. And lessons you have shared and advice you have given so far, it is going to shape their design, shape their future, and the way they should think beforehand and also before graduation. So on behalf of School of Entrepreneurship Development, I would like to express my gratitude and very best of luck for your future endeavors, and extremely again sorry for the mistake uh, regarding the country. Very best of luck, and the way information is power. Your information, it is going to definitely inspire and help students decide or take decision, or you know like uh, help them in different ways. So the reason for this kind of webinar is share how people are doing things globally, and their mindset, their passion, and things they have been doing. It actually opens their eyes. So thank you again so much, Josephine, for your contribution, and good night.
thank you, Mara. It's so good to share with you guys, and I hope you guys find it useful. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.